That's kind of mind-blowing.
So, all right, so let's take a pause here. So for me, this isn't mind-blowing because I've had the direct contact with my own sources, which again come through the plant medicine path, which I've been following with deep reverence for 23 years since my first initiation at 18 with psilocybin. And for me, I've understood and received the knowledge that the divine expressed I am, which is the outward, the yang expression of creation of all things, the one becoming many, and that the sacred geometry, the divine intelligence, the logos, the word, all of it would figure itself out perfectly from that initial I am, from that moment. So to me, it's like, yeah, of course, I get it. Like, of course. You know, and I think there's another interpretation where God's meticulously got his little, you know, got his compass and his thing and making all
Geometry.
this. Making it. But it just flows naturally as the language that's contained within the sacred I am of the all mind, you know, of the source, right? Contained within that. So for me, it makes sense. But then there's got to be people, of course, listening right now are like skeptical, saying like, you're just making up random numbers. And as someone who's into mathematics, what do you think the probability is that all of these mathematics are random? That like this is happening random? Is that even a possible hypothesis?
No, it's like, that's why I kind of laugh at that, because it's like, no, it's just not possible. So, and if you don't believe it, just look them up. Okay. Look up the diameter of all of these things. You'll find also that because the sun has its diameter of, 432,000 miles, is why the sun has a circumference that's the Euler number. It's 2.718 million miles. It's hidden in plain sight. I mean, literally in plain sight. We look at it every day. But the metaphor is more important to me. The metaphor that the moon is, from our vantage point standing on Earth, the exact same size as the sun on average as we look at it. You notice that? Have you noticed that before? You look at the size of the moon, it's in the sky, it's got the silver color, you got the gold color, but they're basically the same size.
Yeah.
Don't you find that a little strange? I don't know. So I think there's a metaphor there about how we perceive the feminine, the moon, and the masculine. Right? Masculine being relational to the sun. So what Da Vinci did is he put on his squared circle. And by the way, it wasn't even a squared circle because he didn't match the area of the square and the circle in his very famous illustration. It's probably arguably the most famous illustration that we look at today. In fact,
the Vitruvian Man.
Yeah, the Vitruvian Man. If the radius is 1 unit of the circle, then the area for that circle should be pi, because it's pi r squared, right? This is radius squared times pi still equals pi, because 1, right? 1 is the radius value. Well, guess what the value is for the square? This is 200 years before this number was even discovered by Isaac Newton. It's the Euler number. The exact area. So artists throughout history, again, the problem of not having polymaths around, the artists throughout history are looking at it going, that's pretty, looks good. Not even really thinking that the area doesn't match. It's not even close. Da Vinci was a lot smarter than that. If he was trying to match the area, the mathematicians are looking at, this is a joke. It's not even close. It's far away. 2.7 is very far from 3.14. Come on. What they didn't understand, though, he was striking a balance between a triangle. So a triangle, an equilateral triangle, from its center point to its top part of it, of its tip up here, the apex, would be 2/3 the length. 1/3 the length is from the center point to the flat base of the triangle, right? If we take that exact same proportion and we use a weighted average value, so we take pi times 2/3, the long portion, right? And we add it to Euler, 2.718 times 1/3, guess what the result comes out to? 3. 3.000. Here we have two transcendental irrational numbers through a simple weighted average around a triangle, coming back to the divinity of the number 3.
The Trinity.
The Trinity. So to me, the chances that something like this could happen, right? It's like, here's another one. Do you know what the exact point inside of the sarcophagus is on planet Earth. If we were to measure it and look at it, it's at its degree measurement, right? So we're looking at latitude and longitude. The latitude for the exact center point of the sarcophagus in the king's chamber is 29.9792.458 degrees. That's exactly what it is. So 299,792,458 degrees. And that is the latitudinal reference to the geolocation of the Great Pyramid. Not just the Great Pyramid, but within its 13 acres, down to 1 meter inside of the sarcophagus. Do you know that's the exact speed of light? The speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. Did you know that the Great Pyramid, the name of the Great Pyramid, one of it is Mer, which means light? It literally means pyramid. Pyra is a Greek word for fire, which was also used to reference light. Mid is like a mean or center point, the midpoint. The mean of light is the name of pyramid, and it's exactly on the geolocation at which point in time we had no reference to latitude or longitude, if you believe the dynastic building of the pyramid, which would have been 4,500 years ago approximately. But wait, okay, so let's just say that might be coincidence. Let's take the other longitudinal reference. So the longitudinal reference for the same spot is 31.1342 degrees. So that doesn't sound like anything special. It's not speed of light, right? It's not close to the speed of light. But what is it? Well, if you take 31, of course, it's going to be related to a circle or a sphere, right? Because degrees are always related to a circularity. So let's take 31.1342 and divide it by 360 degrees. What do we get? We get 0.0864. 0.0864. Now, if you've got on one axis light, and you were going to say the other axis should probably be something related to dark, right?
Sure.
Light, dark. And doesn't time relate to dark? Isn't there something called like gravitational sort of time dilation? Did you ever see that movie Interstellar?
Of course.
Where they landed on that planet, they're only there for like 45 minutes, and the big wave came, and then it was like 23 years went by, they went back to the ship, the guy's all old waiting for them.
Yep.
Remember that?
How could you forget it? I mean, I interviewed Matthew McConaughey. He tells that story of when he goes and sees his daughter's videos and that moment of realizing that all that time passed for him in an instant, but for in his life and what he lost in that relationship.
Right. So you've got this time dilation effect, right? So gravity and time must relate to each other then. And every physicist would tell you that that's the case because you will have time effects. You know, the time on Jupiter is different than the time here because the gravitational effect there is greater than it is here. So what is this reference of 864? Well, is it a coincidence that we have 86,400 seconds in every day? And that the sun's diameter is 864,000 miles? Now, if I could make a perfect time system and I was going to construct it, I'd be like, okay, how do I geometry this shit out, right? I'm going to like make this thing. I'm going to have it relate to the thing that I'm going around, and it's going to be related to its diameter. And then that's going to then resolve into every day of 24 hours, which comes out to be the exact relationship of the diameter of the sun, please. So now the latitude and the longitude are light and time references. Really?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is this. The experiences that we're going through are self-imposed. We choose them. This is the higher order understanding. There's no boogeyman. We ourselves are the boogeyman. We all have to go into that cave like Luke Skywalker, face our fears, It's the internal. It's the same concept. Hope that you live long enough to defeat the villain, but not so long you become the villain.
Yeah.
This is the life we're living. This is the hero's journey. To come to the realization that I chose it all.
Mm-hmm.
I chose it all. And
With the biggest capital I that there is in the whole universe.
So,
the one big I am.
I am. So when I used to get really angry at the whole Donald Trump situation, what I'd force myself to do to break myself of the habit of getting angry about it is I would stop myself and I'd say, okay, sweetheart, every time I do that, just say, hey, or, give me some signal. And then I'm just going to sit there and say, I am that I am. The thing that I was judging negatively in him, I'm acknowledging that I am that. So then I tried to expand it. It got really funny in my office because every time I'd be like, oh yeah, and then I'd have to say it out loud. I am that I am. So that I would train myself to stop thinking in terms of judgment and start thinking in terms of integration. I am the thing that I'm judging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredibly freeing because what it expressed to me was there's no mistakes.
It's infinitely freeing. If you follow it all the way.
Yeah.
It is actual freedom, true freedom.
It really is. And so that I started to try to embody that. And that's when I started to learn how to receive. That's when I started to learn how to be in touch with my heart. That's when I started to feel emotions. Because, for us as men, we don't, we're told at a very young age, don't cry, don't do this, da, 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 da. And I had a great father, so I'm very lucky from that perspective. But he went off to Vietnam. He was in the Vietnam War. And, we all grow up with the path that we ourselves chose. And my parents tell this funny story. I just had my 50th birthday a few years ago. I'm 53 now. And I was born in a hospital not far from me. It was more in northern Texas, up in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I was born on an Air Force base at Shepherd Hospital. And this hospital had this thing, once a year, they would give a silver spoon. They would just by lottery give a silver spoon to one of the babies born. And I was that baby, right, that got the silver spoon. I mean, they thought it was sort of funny. It shows up in the newspaper, the silver spoon baby is this silver spoon baby and everything. And it's funny because I used to think that I struggled so hard for all the things that I've been lucky and successful for in life. But maybe I just chose it. Maybe it was embedded within my numerology and within my own zodiac chart. Because maybe I chose different things to learn, to deal with. And I'm grateful for all of it.
I think that's one of the challenges with free will is we're looking at it from too limited a scope, right? Like I chose it is not the separate self of right now choosing it. It's the I, the infinite I, the unborn.
The capital I.
The unborn, the undying I that chose it and then chose the ability to choose otherwise as well. All of the choices that kind of move through this continuum of our life and the continued choices of the I am in its ultimate fractal sense.
It's so amazing when you think of it like that, because then when people come into your world, when you realize that it's a you inverse, the world is reflecting all around you, and every person you meet is someone you will learn something from. They're there to bring you a divine message. If you will but know what to do with it, if you'll be there to listen and be present for that. Every single person, an Uber driver, a person on the street, some random person you never thought you would talk to can become a sage to you and be a life-changing experience for you.
One of the things that I try to express through my experience in plant medicine ceremonies is in the ceremonial context. Let's say you're in an ayahuasca circle. One of the key codes, the codex of the ceremony is that everything in the ceremony is your ceremony. Whether that's somebody yelling, one time there was a party barge that parked outside in the beautiful ocean and was playing reggaeton in the middle of our final ceremony. Like everything is part of the ceremony.
Right.
And in that idea, okay, this is part of my ceremony. Then you get to learn all of the lessons from it. And then if you extrapolate, all right, that's your practice ground. It's like playing sports. You practice a lot of things in sports so that you can learn them in life. It's not about the sport. Sport's fun, great. But if you really pay attention, you can learn the ways that your mind will defeat yourself, learn the ways that you're challenged, learn the ways where you get selfish, learn the ways where you're worried about your stats instead of the team victory. Learn all of these different things. Same with ceremony. When you apply that ceremonial context to life, life is ceremony. Everything is happening as an opportunity for me. Then that changes your whole context. And at that point, you can actually facilitate this constant learning, no matter what's happening.
The universe is always happening for us.